Welcome back, guys. It's your boy Z. We got the fabulous Emily on today. This is a new segment called Debating to the Moon and Back. The first topic, we are talking about the double standard. Today, I am arguing there should be a double standard. I am for having a double standard. Emily is debating, nah, double standards suck. We should not have them. So I guess we'll get right into it. Opening remarks. Why do you think there should not be a double standard?
Well, first, can I start off with the definition?
Go ahead.
Because, in case anyone's watching that doesn't know. So basically, according to the Oxford Dictionary, the double standard is a rule or principle which it is unfairly applied in different ways to different people or groups. So in this case, we're relating it to gender, looking at females and males.
Okay.
In that aspect. And I truly believe that it shouldn't be a double standard because, there should not be a double standard because we're sitting here saying that we're equal and obviously, we're different within our gender, but why does gender determine how we're treated? Why can't we all be treated equally despite that?
Gotcha. So one thing I want to talk about is when you say equal, right? So like if we think about like the whole African American thing when they were coming up, the whole like separate but equal, but it was like you're presented the same tools, but if you don't know how to use those tools, like what does equal really mean? I'm definitely understanding your point. There should not be a double standard in some cases when it comes to jobs and opportunities, stuff like that. I totally understand. But I would say the reason why I'm arguing for a double standard is because when we talk about the protection of women, like you were saying, it's supposed to be hurting women. I don't think a double standard necessarily has to hurt women. If we talk about how the same situation, right? Like let's say there's a girl in a club or in any situation, she's arguing with a guy. The guy, is like really kind of like trying to be passive, like like just get out of my face, yada yada. But today this girl ate her Wheaties, right? And she's just like, you know what? I'm going to, get all up in your face, do this. This is the number one thing where she about to hit him. And she goes ahead and hit him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, because of the double standard, this is why I'm saying there should be a double standard, right? Because if you're saying there should be a double standard, that guy should have all rights to fade that girl. Like just off top, because again, she's one going out of her lane to put her hands on a man and thinking, oh, this gonna be equal. It's not. Like genetically, a man is a lot stronger than a woman. Yes, there are anomalies. Yes, there are, a lot of women that just out physique men, right? I totally understand that. But that's one example I can say why there should be a double standard because again, coming up, little kids are taught, boys, you don't hit girls. Girls aren't really told not to hit boys. They're just, like told to like be pretty, act nice. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's like with the guys, do not hit girls regardless. So and that's like I think that's like my one like point I want to say why there should, because it's literally protecting the image of a woman.
Yeah, so bouncing off of that, I really think that the double standard in that case should protect men because when you look at that in that situation, like let's say they're dating, that's domestic violence, right? So there's so many resources out there for women for domestic violence, and like you said, men are taught don't hit women, don't do this, don't do that, and they do that anyways. That's why domestic violence is a thing. But what about when men are getting hit and women are being the abuser and they're hitting men? And now, because she's a woman, a man can't defend himself. That's the whole double standard. So women can literally beat men and it's oh ha ha ha, that man's weak, he let a woman beat on her and he has nothing to protect himself and now he's getting laughed at. But if a woman were to get beat by a man, that man ain't shit, he's a woman beater, he does all these things and the woman is hurt.
Yeah, so I mean, it's tricky when it comes to domestic like violence, but like, and I would even like link it to the Ronda Rousey one. Like she wrote a book about having like physically beating her, guy, and it was praised. She bragged about it. Yeah, like I kicked his ass. Like, and that was one thing where I was like, huh. But and the thing is, the reason why I'm saying there is a double standard is because as a society, you know, if you're a man, you're supposed to be strong. If you're a man, you're supposed to be dominant. So the fact that you're getting beat by a woman, the double standard says, well, what'd you do to deserve it? It's, protect yourself or like, and the thing is like, when it comes to the double standard is at all costs, why can't you just restrain her? You know, like if you're supposed to be the stature and physically stronger, why can't you just restrain her?
Exactly. So that's the double standard being used against men. So you're saying that the double standard should be used to protect women and not men in that situation, and that's incorrect. Like as women, I feel like if we want to be seen as equal, we need to be treated how we want to be treated. If I don't want a man to beat on me, I'm not going to beat on him because I respect him enough as a person to not be disrespectful and lay my hands on him, as I would expect the same. And the fact that Ronda Rousey wrote a book about that and it was praised, because like you said, it's a societal thing. So you know, as women, we're always like, fuck the patriarchy. Well, part of that is dismantling the double standard.
Okay.
Even if it's not always in our favor. So like in this case, it may seem like it's in our favor because we can beat men, we can abuse men and be like, ah ha ha, you that bitch, because you beat his ass, right? Like he not gonna touch you, like that's it. But why? Like, because the roles were switched, it wouldn't be like that. Like everyone would be coming for him. Can you imagine a man coming out, like one of the NFL players who got caught abusing his wife came out with a book like, oh yeah, I used to beat her. Society is gonna disown him. So why isn't it the same for women? And that's why the double standard has to be taken apart, because it's not protecting. Well, in your case, it is protecting someone, but it's really not if you think about it, because someone has to get hurt on the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, but again, the way we live in society, it's about protecting one side. We're never like the thing is like when you have arguments, when you have situations when it comes to the double standard, both sides will never agree. Like they'll try to compromise. They'll say they empathize when they really sympathize. And like, oh yeah, I feel you, but they don't really get it. And when we talk about the whole like women can like beat men and it's wrong and it's like, well, like again, as a guy, if I'm supposed to be like a macho man, I'm like, bro, why don't you just protect yourself? Why don't you duck? Like why don't you like get out the way? Like, and it comes to times like that where men, again, they have the right to leave the situation. Like there's ways around. Again, women never walk away. Like they never like, oh no, I'm done. Like I'm not gonna argue with you. Like we're not gonna get like a physical altercation. A man can do the same thing, and that's what I'm saying. Like if we're saying like the double standard is if one side can walk away, if a woman can physically walk away from the situation without a man getting riled up, why can't the man do that? Like so, I'm saying like if the man is like he's supposed to be the man, he's supposed to control the temperature of the room. Why can't he walk away from that situation before it gets violent?
So he can walk away. But you're saying that like a woman is gonna chase after him, right? If I'm understanding that correctly. Okay. So that is literally the double standard. That's why we're against it. Because if a man chooses to walk away, that is his right. And that's you basically saying like if a man is getting abused, he has the right to leave, but women don't. Why is that? Why can't women leave when they're being abused? That's also another double standard, that women are sat there to take it and they have to deal with it until the worst of the worst happens. And if a man's getting abused, he can leave because it's a woman and she's perceived as weak. And even if she hits him, it's nothing. Like he ate them bitches. It ain't shit.
But then again, when you think about women in toxic relationships, why don't they leave?
There's multiple different reasons why women don't leave. A lot of them can be because of financial reasons. It can be because they have no one else. It can be because it was so controlling that the man like cut off all connection that the woman has to the outside world. There's a bunch of different phases. It can be due to children. There's multiple different reasons. It's not just why can't she leave. It's so much more complex than that.
So you're saying like if it's an equal playing field, right? We always talk about men leaving the situation, leaving a kid. So a woman is not like she's just not gonna do that. Like like you're giving me these reasons why they stay. Like you're giving me, oh, they stay because of financial. They do this, they do that, and it's like you're saying like that. All that sounds like dependency. You see what I'm saying? I'm curious to know again the doubles. A man can leave, man. All right, cool. But a woman, like you're giving me all these like excuses. I mean, they're excuses. They're reasons why the woman can't leave. But I guess moving the needle forward. How do you feel about toxic masculinity? Do you think it's a real thing?
Yeah. So just one more thing to go off your top point. I wasn't feeling like I was giving you excuses. I feel like you asked me why don't women leave, and those are the like studied scientific reasons why women don't leave. But you're right. Like when men can leave a child, men can leave, men just leave, and that's society accepted. But when women don't, it's when women do, it's consequenced, right? So that's another thing, a part of the double standard,
Okay.
that men can do something that women cannot.
Okay.
Just a highlight to that. But regarding toxic masculinity, I do believe that it is a real thing. I think that men growing up, like you said, they're taught to act a certain way and be a certain way, and they're taught to be strong and assertive and be the head of household and to just be this really big powerful man in charge. So sometimes, they take that to the head. Okay. And they think they're too powerful and they're overpowering, which becomes a toxic environment. And I think that toxic masculinity is talked about a lot now in today's society, as more women are upcoming and more women want to be seen as equal in the playing field within men and say, like, hey, I'm a woman and I can be as powerful as a man. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what shined light to so much of toxic masculinity. Okay. But in the same sense as men can be toxic and men can be overpowering and men can think they're the shit, women can too. Okay. And that's just all as part of the double standard, is that people think they're above one another instead of thinking we're the same within our own power dimensions.
Okay. So, you talked about how, females can also perceive that sense of like toxicity. How do you feel when you have because you're a feminist, correct? Like, I don't want to like label you. As a feminist, how do you, I guess, advocate or step in when there's another feminist acting like that? Like, again, because society makes it okay for guys to talk about women in all types of ways. So how do you, as a feminist, like trying to empower women, how do you take, I guess, like how do you take the helm and kind of like stop women from like demasculating a man, like only talking about him like as a piece of meat, or saying like, because again, when you think about how women owning themselves now, when it comes to women saying he either is hot, he's not, or he got a big dick, like like those are kind of like the things. So like, right. How do you as a feminist take like charge in that?
Yeah, and a lot of that is like who I am personally. Like, I think anyone that knows me knows I always talk shit about men. I'm always like, I act like a man, like I'll hold around like a man, like I'll do again like that double standard societal thing that are usually like taken in the role as a man. Mm-hmm. But when I look at it from a feminist perspective, you just kind of know like when is enough to joke around and when is it enough to be serious and advocate for men. And I think that's really where other feminists need to draw the line. Okay. So as I'm sure like I can talk about a man and I can be like, bro, like his dick big as hell, like I smash, like I'd fuck him, or like that's all I want him for is sex. I'm sure men say the same thing about me, and vice versa. And I think that is kind of like dismantling the double standard in that aspect, because I'm gonna talk about you the way you talk about me, and we kind of have the same mindset in that manner. Okay. But if a woman is, like you said, bashing a man and like kind of demasculating him, that's when you have to step in and you have to be like, hey, if that happened to a woman, you wouldn't be doing that. Like, this is kind of a touchy topic, but when people make fun of men for getting raped, like if a man comes out and he said, hey, I was raped, people perceive him as weak, and like that takes away his masculinity, because bro, a woman literally threw herself at you didn't want to have sex with her, like what's wrong with you? But if a woman says I was raped, it's, oh my god, we're so sorry, look at all these resources, you're going through trauma, let's help you. Okay. Why isn't it like that for men? Why do men have to be belittled to come out and tell their story and say when they went through something traumatic, and they're laughed at, but women are cared for? And as a feminist, that's where you have to kind of draw the line, that although I'm gonna talk shit about the opposite gender as they would to me, mm-hmm. I'm gonna fight for them as I would expect for them to do to me when I know things have gone too far and they deserve just as equal respect and rights that I would have in their situation.
Okay. Because the reason why I asked is because when we think about society, and the reason why I say again, there should be a double standard when it comes to situations like this, because when you talk about a man saying like, oh, I was raped, it comes to the point where you're asking yourself, in what situation other than being a child, how were you raped? Like did she like how did she trick you? Did she drug you? Did you, like, how did it actually happen? Because it shouldn't be possible. Like it if because what does she coerce you into doing? Like if we talk about types of power, like she didn't coerce you into having sex with her. You did this or I'm gonna tell somebody. Did she persuade you? Maybe. It's like, and then where like when in the fact did you actually feel you were being raped? Was it she was too much? Like like she talked you up. You and her were going at it, and then you stopped giving your consent at a certain time. Like when was like that initial? Oh, I feel like I'm being raped. And I think, because again, when it comes to women, when we talk about them and yelling rape, it's the moment they feel uncomfortable in a situation and the guy proceeds. When it comes with a guy, it's like, well, how did she physically, again, unless she just can overpower you physically, how did she strip you down? How did she get you up? And like, how bodies work. Subconsciously, you can still be into something and your body is alive. But the way that thing works down there, like it has a mind of its own, yes. But if you're not into something, if you're not really, that's where I think a lot of guys are saying, "How were you raped?" Like like if it was up, you see what I'm saying? Like, because again, like if you don't enjoy something, like the air in the room drops, and I think that's where a lot of guys are like, "How did you physically get raped?" On that point, but I think that again, the double standard of protecting women is that when it is a situation like that, we're going to be up in arms about protecting our women. We neglect our men. Why? Because again, when we talk about society, men always held a higher stature. Whether it was the white man first, and then eventually, like again, like it's just the totem pole of how life goes. Um, I do disagree with it. Like the roles of a woman. I will never say, oh, this woman has this role or something like that. But I do think there are a time and a place where we're different. We should not get the same thing. Prime example, the NBA, WNBA, right? There's
I knew you were gonna bring that up.
I mean, and the only reason I bring it up is because I was on Twitter and I got wrote like an old tweet, and it was like this girl who was just like, yeah, we should get paid as much as them, and I was like, no, I shouldn't. And I mean, it wasn't oh, it's a glass ceiling or whatnot. It's you know if you were playing on the court with that man, no, like it's just again attributes. If you have a LeBron and you have the best WNBA player, that she's gonna look like a rookie. Like she's not gonna look like she belongs in the NBA. You see what I'm saying? And it's like even again the entertainment value. You don't move as fast. You're a little bit slower. Like like again, shooting out of this world. Shooting contest doesn't matter. People can shoot, but when it comes to like the physical attributes of what sells tickets, NBA. So like that's a discrepancy where it deserves to get paid more. They bring in more sales. They bring in more fans, and that's again across really all sports. Because again, if you think about a woman-dominated sport, Serena Williams, you don't really hear a lot of male, tennis players. She made that sport that sport. She should get paid more than them because she brings in like she just makes the game more better or more quality, I should say, because more better is not a thing. Shout out Fuchs because he's the more better king. But I think like again, it's a discrepancy of entertainment. It's a discrepancy of time and place. When we talk about like the rapes, it's the opportunity of like when were you able to get out? Women, a lot of the times they're not able to get out. Men, again, the stature.
Right. But that's you associating rape with like a violent act. Like not all rapes are violent, and even like sometimes when women get raped, like obviously they're raped, they don't want to have sex, but they'll still get aroused, so they'll still get wet, and it's not intentional. So the same thing can happen to men. Like although they don't want it to happen, they can get aroused, and then that's how they get up, and that's just because obviously you can't have sex with a man unless it's up. So that can happen in that situation, and I think even if a man says no, like women can still proceed. And I think in your mind you're just kind of like, why can't you push her off? Like why? But no one says that to women,
Well,
like why didn't you just push
again,
her off?
it's position. You see what I'm saying? Like it's position and how it works. If a guy is getting raped, you can't be on top. You see what I'm saying? Like there, like the science that like you physically can't be on
Yeah,
top.
but like we like also like that's the thing. So men being raped is never talked about. So we don't know exactly how it happens. And that is because of the double standard where men feel like they can't come out and say this happened to me because of like the questioning. Like when women come out and say they were raped, no one questions them because it's perceived because it's perceived to be a violent act. It's perceived to like be with force. So you're saying that a woman cannot physically force down a man to have sex, but she can.
But that's what I'm saying. Again, if you're on bottom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, but if you're on top, there's no way you were raped. So what's going on, guys? You guys just literally listened to a conversation going back and forth between the double standard. Should there be one? Should there not be one? Let me know down in the comments below what you guys think. I personally think that a double standard is very subjective. I think it is time and place when it should be one and when there shouldn't be one. But you guys let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. It's your boy Z, and we are out.